And we are live with the Phoenix Enigma, Corey and Alicia, back after many, many years with such an important story that has gone even bigger in the meantime. I mean, this story we thought, back then it was huge about the Epstein files and Kappy, but now it's gone bigger than ever. So it was definitely a good time to get the guys on and do a part two. And Corey, many of the viewers, they're not familiar with you guys and your incredible work. So before we get into it and update, the story, are you all right to just explain, what got you into this activism and Isaac Kappy, etc.?
All right. Well, how do I say this? Okay. My name is Corey. Real life name is Corey Daniel. I am a professional certified interpretive guide here in Arizona. I didn't know Isaac Kappy. I had seen some guy with the hair on YouTube once or twice, ranting and raving, yelling, and it's about all I knew about him. And at that time, it was kind of a crazy time in my life. We've all had crazy times in our life. And I was guiding. I was driving to the Grand Canyon a couple times a week. In any case, on the day that Isaac died, May 13th, 2019, I was on a tour. And I know right exactly where I was because of the time. It was a scheduled tour from Phoenix to the Grand Canyon. I drove under the bridge about 9:26, somewhere between 9:20 and 9:30, probably around 9:26-ish, 25, somewhere in there. And it was a normal day. There was no accidents. There was nothing going on at all. Finished my whole entire tour, came home the next day. My phone blew up because at the time I was making YouTube videos about occultism and about Hollywood, and all the bad stuff that goes on in Hollywood, things that Isaac was covering. And I made a video saying, people blew up my phone and they were going on and on about, oh my God, Isaac, he's gone, and people started calling me, asking me if I could investigate it because I live in Arizona. So I dug in. I contacted the girl who worked at the gas station right where Isaac crossed over. We'll put it that way for YouTube algorithms here. I met the guy and spoke with him. I didn't meet him. I spoke with the guy that accidentally ran over Isaac. I got very involved. I got into the family Lamborghesa. I met all of Isaac's friends, people he was field sourcing information to, consolidating it and running up his chain to the White House. I met his White House connection, the person who he was giving information to give to Trump staff. And I learned a lot. About a lot. I'll tell you what, in a lot of ways, things are clearer now than they are back then. It was the fervor of everything that was happening. A lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of disinformation, misinformation, bad actors, assets. I mean, I want to talk later about what's going on with Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens and the circus surrounding all that. I lived through that. I mean, in my opinion, Alicia, we talk about this quite a bit off air. It seems the Isaac Kappy situation was like a pre-run, if you will, for Charlie Kirk, or this new type of psyop that they're doing. So that's how I got involved with it. Alicia knew Isaac. Alicia was one of the last people to spend time with Isaac. And she was with him on Wednesday and Saturday, just prior to his leaving this dimension. So in the course of the investigation, I met Alicia. We ended up just falling in love. Saw her for the first time on Hollywood Boulevard, threw her up against a car, kissed her, made her mine, brought her back to Arizona. She moved over here and we got married, and now we got a farm up in the highlands of Arizona, and just making our way through life. We found each other thanks to Isaac. So that's kind of us in a nutshell, and that's the recap on all that. Welcome any questions in the chat. Where are we streaming to today, by the way? Where are we live at, Shaun?
Yeah, so presently we've got over 1,000 watching live on YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And Alicia is about to join us. So, hi, Alicia. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you absolutely fine. So Corey was just talking, about his history of how he got into this activism. Do you want to just let the viewers know your history as well, please?
My activism started a long time in small private ways. Well before I knew Isaac, I was participating with some groups in America here who were helping girls get out of trafficking. And then I met Isaac and got involved with Isaac, became friends, and had a few personal conversations with him, and also went to see him a few times in the week before he was no longer with us. And so, it seemed important after what happened to him to speak up for people who stand up for the truth and don't see the next day to continue standing up for the truth, I guess you could say, because he was trying to do a right thing and a good thing, and he had his voice taken away from him. So, and then when you see that and you see the problems with what you're told about happened, and then you, like we have, investigated it and see other things, well, then you have to keep talking out because you have a burden of truth that becomes mandatory, I guess, in doing the right thing and living properly in your conscience. So for me, that's how I'm here. And then Corey and I, of course, as he just said, we got together and we continued to work on it, and information continues to come our way every now and again. After you aired your replay of the show we did a few years ago, we had quite a few people come to us with some interesting information, and so we've had some phone calls just from even that. So This is why.
Yeah, we had some information come in just like within a week of your last airing of the show we did a few years back, and somebody even sent us an audio recording. He called Isaac's old number, and a guy answered, and it sounded like Isaac.
What?
And we talked about that. Me and Alicia did privately. I mean, I don't know if I'm ready to share that yet, but we had someone else that called and mentioned that he knows what Isaac had. And the guy sounded pretty credible. He knew things that we hold back. Like any investigation, there's certain things Alicia and I've held back from the public, just so that when people approach us with things, we'll know whether they're full of, BS or not. And this guy is pretty credible. And the things he told us were pretty terrifying, what Isaac may have had. And if that's the case, it would be the evidence right now. It would be video proof of everything that we're hearing about in the files that have been coming out as of January 30th, with the Jeffrey Epstein files. So, and if what this guy is saying was true, then this would be, he said the faces were clear, the crimes and the deeds were clear, and Isaac had that. So, we finished tracking down some other people that kind of eluded us in the first year of the investigation. It took me 2 years to track down somebody else who had a lot to say, who Isaac saw just prior to crossing over. And there's been a lot. There's certain things we can and can't say, but we've been to the FBI. We've been to the Attorney General's office of Arizona. We've tried our best to reopen the case. They won't do it. Isaac's family isn't interested in doing it either. They just want it to go away. They want, kind of like, I kind of think of him as like Seth Rich's parents. I never understood why Seth Rich's parents wouldn't want to get to the bottom of what happened to their son, but they just took the official narrative from the government and said, hey, that's what it is. And they've actively pushed everything else away. Maybe they just want closure. I'm not sure. I'm not here to judge them, but in any case, they're not helping with the investigation. So, it is where it's at right now. We have a lot of our own opinions and thoughts on things, but nothing 100% concrete. Just last night we found some more stuff as well I got to look into that could open up some other avenues. So, I mean, I can get into some of the stuff if you like to talk about, but
Yeah, let's just show the viewers first a little bit of Isaac himself speaking, because some of the viewers are not familiar, with the kinds of things he said, and they're more pertinent than ever now, because it's all coming out, a lot of it in these files. So I'll play a little bit of this, and
aren't you concerned for my life? Yeah, but more importantly, I'm concerned for everybody, because this shit has been going on forever. Because when you're talking about like really elite levels, the name of the game is blackmail. So they want something on you that they can hold over your head, so they can basically own you and tell you what to do.
I mean, that right there just hits it totally on the head, doesn't it, guys?
That's it. Isaac nailed it. He nailed it. He was ahead of the game on every front. And to watch what's happened in the last year alone, I mean, hell, to watch what happened, I mean, right after Isaac was gone, within months, it was, well, you and I were together in October, we found each other. And then 2 months later, it was COVID. We were locked down, right? Locked down for a year, arguably a year and a half, almost 2 years in Arizona. Wasn't the second year was a little bit better, but it was still bad. And then everything just got crazy and crazier and crazier. We were working with the Stop the Steal rallies here in Phoenix, with the RNC before it got infiltrated. We've learned a lot about politics. We've learned a lot about the sides, the left versus the right, Republicans and Democrats. I mean, this year I've done a 180 on almost everything. It's terrifying, the state of the world right now, not just America, but the state of the world. And Isaac was early into a lot of, specifically the Epstein stuff, because he was field sourcing information. People were coming to him. So, oh God, I mean, where do you start? Where do you start with Isaac?
Corey, do you remember how he got into the Epstein side of things and what he was saying about that side of things?
Well, what had happened was Isaac came out on July 22nd, 2018 at 1:33 in the afternoon at the San Diego Comic-Con event. And he basically turned on his phone. It was his first Periscope podcast, or Periscope cast rather. And he turned it on. He said, "Hey, this is Isaac." And he started going. And he basically came out and said, I'll quote him here. He said, I was talking about Seth Green and Seth's wife, Claire. And he said, "Man, I tried, this." And he told the story, and he said, "Seth, but brother, you're a pedophile." I'm sorry, PDF file. Sorry. And he called out, and he named Tom Hanks, and he named Steven Spielberg, and all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose at that point, and everyone just inundated him. He blew up so fast. He was doing daily shows for hours a day on Periscope. He put together a group of people. They were vetting people to come into a Keybase chat room where they could isolate information in groups of people. That got really hard to manage, so they switched all over to a Telegram group that became known as the Family Hamburguesa. And then it just kind of morphed from his story about Seth Green, what he went through over there in California, the things he experienced and witnessed, to it went into Epstein. And specifically, to put it short, Isaac Kappy was spearheading an underground social media movement called Unseal Epstein. They wanted the files unsealed from the 2007-2008 Epstein prosecution, where Alex Acosta, before he went in as the labor secretary for Trump, where he cut that really sweetheart deal, wherein, I mean, they let all kinds of people go. They put in clauses and immunities for collaborators, people they knew were in there, people that should have been prosecuted got off scot-free. Ghislaine Maxwell, I think, got a full-on non-prosecution there, which is kind of weird. They prosecuted her again here recently, right? And I'm sure she's trying to leverage that, but I know she was in that as well. And all the records got completely sealed from the public, from everybody. And Isaac was trying to unseal that. It was really weird because during that time, Epstein was allowed to wake up in the morning in his jail, leave, have his private car pick him up, drive him to his house where he continued to commit crimes, launder money, arms trading, what's the code word here?
He was doing
human transportation, all that stuff, right? Which was this business. And I know Isaac knew more about this than almost anyone. He had to have been in contact with somebody because he wrote out a map called the Mossad Media Matrix. And on that map is a number of people that today are still extremely involved, from Loomer to Alex Jones to Poso, Anna Kate, Cernovich, people that are all still very active and very relevant in anything dealing with Epstein and in some cases Israel. I mean, I don't know how deep down in those holes you want to go for life.
So the Mossad Media Matrix then was the first name that you said, was it Alex Jones?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And Isaac was on Alex's show. He was on Alex's show. And if you can go back and watch it, it might be in the in my mind map, the Isaac Kappy mind map. If people want to access this real quick, while the show's going on here, if you go to my website, thephoenixenigma.com, and just scroll down to the Isaac Kappy mind map and click on that, it's going to open up to a Miro page. And on that, you're going to see a map. It's literally a mind map. You can scroll through it and click in the upper right hand corner of every box. It'll open up to a page, and you can read the original files, the original PDFs. You can watch videos, testimonies. There's everything that we could find in 5 years is in that map. It's free. There's no paywall. It's archived on the internet, so everyone can just go there and get any info that they want for free anytime if they're if they're interested in this kind of stuff. But
Alicia, do you have anything to add at this point?
Nope. I'm just
all right. Well,
with Corey.
Okay. Well, Corey, a lot of people in the chat are wondering or speculating as to the, what was the mainstream media version of events when Isaac passed, and what do you guys theorize could have happened?
So we've considered literally every single possibility, as well as possibilities that agent provocateurs and plants and chaos agents who were thrust into our world. I thought we were being paranoid at the time, but watching the Charlie Kirk stuff happening and the Candace Owens,
I don't think we were paranoid enough.
No, yeah, we weren't paranoid enough at that time. You're right, honey. But the official story broke on TMZ. So Isaac died at 7:22 in the morning, Monday morning, May 13th. Nobody knew on the 13th. Nobody knew. He was gone except for his parents. On the 14th is when it got the story got broke on TMZ. And then from there, it blew up. Hollywood is the entertainment division of the U.S. intelligence agency, for those people who don't know out there in the world. TMZ is very, very suspected and well known for breaking information from intelligence agencies, running Hollywood psyops, narrative directions, blacklisting people, false flag operations, all that shit. They're just tied into all of it at a very crucial level. So it came out that Isaac Kappy had forced himself off of a bridge, is the official wordage. He B-list actor Isaac Kappy died in Belmont, Arizona, after forcing himself from a bridge, and that's it. That's all it said. And I believe they got that from the DPS spokesperson statement. I forget the guy's name, but the guy used to work in Hollywood himself. Now he's an Arizona Department of Public Safety spokesperson. So maybe those jobs go together. I don't know, but it's another connection, an integral connection there. Like they were using the networks that were already laid out to guide the story. So that's, you can read that and say, okay, he forced himself off a bridge. However, the story is that Alicia spent Saturday most 8 hours on Saturday with him just prior. And he almost went home with her that night just because he was scared. He was terrified. He needed a friend.
Do you want to expand on that, Alicia?
Alicia, you want to just kind of go over that briefly? What your guys' plans were and what he did instead, I guess? Or
Well, he was going to come in. I invited him to come and stay with me for a couple weeks, and we could paint. I had a little studio at my place. We could paint, do that sort of thing. And then I'd take him down to the beach, let him get some fresh air, feed him, give him some rest, just take care of a friend. And he wanted to come. But at the last minute, he said, no, but come and get me tomorrow. So that would have been Sunday, Mother's Day. And so I said, all right, I'll come back and get you after I have lunch with my daughter. And so we made those plans. And then on Sunday, I messaged him and said, I'll be available to come out your way about 3. And he said, no, it's okay. I'm going to go have some time with my mom. I want to go see her. So I'm packing up and I'm going to head out. And then about 7:45, I saw his Instagram come up and he ran a little live from his vehicle and, talked to a couple of people there. And then he hung up. And then we didn't hear from him. We saw the last of him on Telegram about 1:37 in the morning. And we all tried calling him. We all tried texting him. And we didn't hear anything all day Monday. And then we got news on Tuesday morning early. So.
Okay. And Corey, you had told us theories last time. Has any of your theories been revised or anything as information has come to light?
Has any new information come to light?
Yeah, I'll tell the viewers what your theory is then of what possibly happened. And if
I got a couple theories. I mean, my primary theory back when I was investigating was, in the actual death itself, Isaac had stated a number of times to Alicia on Saturday, they're coming to unalive me. They're going to tear me limb from limb. I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm not going to. And he told all his friends that. I spoke to the 6 people he spoke to on the phone between Apple Valley and Belmont, Arizona, and each one of them called him after his broadcast on Friday. And he said, "Don't worry, guys. I'm not going to do that. I'm fine. I'm going to go see my mom. I'll be back in a couple weeks. I got plans. Blah blah blah." So he had no intentions of unaliving himself. Okay, he got a flat tire between Williams and Belmont, which are about 16, 18 miles apart, up on I-40. Somewhere between there, he had stopped at a Love's gas station, and I had gotten a hold of Isaac's bank statements from the last 3 months that he had. And on that bank statements had transaction amounts and locations. I tracked those down. I built up a timeline, and then I filled in between those timelines at places he would have been given the rate of speed that he was an averagely driving based upon the first 2. I found his average rate of speed. Then I just ran it out between the other purchases. And he stopped at the Love station and he purchased a pack of cigarettes, some gas, and a lighter. And so I found the photos. I got the security team to give me. So when you see Isaac standing kind of whited out, almost a black and white, but not quite, those are the ones I got from the security team. I think somewhere while he was at that Love station, somebody did something to his tire, his front right tire. I think it would have been easy to put like a BB under the cap and spin it down so a slow leak, or pop this real slow leak. And if you got a slow leak in your tire, as you drive, the air heats up and heats up and heats up, and your tire blows. It doesn't blow on the side, it'll shred the tire. Like it'll remove the entire rand from the sidewalls usually. It's a very well-known, you can see and go, oh yeah, that was a low pressure tire blow, because the heat just got so hot. So it looks like that's what happened to me. And then he, after piecing together the conversation with his mom, another third party gentleman who was speaking to Isaac on the phone at the time the tire popped, and then this check-in time at the Days Inn Hotel, we figured out he was right at Belmont, Arizona. His mother later told me, I believe, that he had pulled off the ramp and was up there on top of the ramp, not far from where he went over, actually. And then he said, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to go check in, blah, blah, blah." He checked in. He said, "I'll see you tomorrow. I got to get the tire." He told his mom, "I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to get the tire fixed." At 1:37 in the morning was the last transmission or anyone ever heard. Isaac made a Telegram post in the Telegram chat room, and after that, nothing. The only thing we have from that point on is what the night shift manager said, that he was restless, was walking around the hotel in the night. He saw him a couple times. And then just before the night shift manager went home at 7:11 in the morning, he saw Isaac in the front, right in front of the lobby outside, and he was walking towards the Trans-Western Bridge that crossed I-40. At that point, Isaac had been sitting out there. The next thing we see is the dash cam footage, which Eric Beatty is his name. And it's one of the witnesses in the deal here. He is witness number, according to the thing here, 7. Witness number 7. He was the off-duty security guard for the Camp Navajo Army depot. It's a weapons depot. It's actually where the U.S. houses nuclear warheads, up here just outside of Flagstaff. It's the largest, 6 miles across. It's the largest base in Arizona, and it's reputed to be going underground as well. So the next time we see Isaac is from the dash cam footage from this guy off duty going to work. Actually, you got to cross the bridge. The bridge that Isaac was on, if you go on one side of the bridge, look on a map, it's got the truck stop. If you leave the truck stop and go across that bridge, across I-40, and keep going, you literally go right into the Army base. The Army base is 6 miles wide, so it's the only thing over there. It's back. It sits back. So we see him there at that timestamp. And then the next thing we got are 911 calls about somebody acting erratically on the bridge. At that point, John Koch, witness number 5, calls 911. If you go into the Isaac Kappy mind map, all the 911 calls are recorded in there as well. You can listen to them all, as well as my interviews with a couple of them. So that happened. He says, "Hey, I just crossed the guy's acting erratically on the bridge." And you hear him say, "Oh, he just went over. Oh my God, he just went over." He doesn't mention the 2 kids though, Levi and Tanner Deck. Those 2 kids had stopped. So the story is that Isaac was on the bridge on the south side of it, over the eastbound lane, and he was acting erratically. And then John Koch had passed him. The 2 brothers stopped right there next to him. They ran up to help him because they said he was going to throw himself over. And as they were trying to grab him, he fought his way loose and fell back. Maybe fell back, went back. They never said.
Some said fell back. Some said leapt forward. None of the reports were the same. Yeah,
because John Koch said in the interview that I did, I said with him, and actually in the witness reports, which are very sparse, and I want to get to that in one second. Don't let me forget that. This is very, very important. But he said that as he was going, Isaac was turning around and throwing his leg over like he was trying to get up the urge to go over. He was turning around facing west and trying to throw his leg over. However, the 2 brothers that were there, they call them kids, but they're not. They were 20 and 22 years old. They were adults. They said he kept leaning back, trying to get the courage to go back, but kept catching himself involuntarily. So you got 3 witnesses with 3 different stories because they had different stories as well. So the next witness is after Isaac hits the ground. And by the way, the fall was about a 22-foot fall. Like, it wasn't, if I was going to do that, I wouldn't pick a 22-foot overpass. I'd pick something a whole lot higher to get the job done right, if that was my intention. Hell, the Grand Canyon was only 50 miles north, and that thing's 800 foot to the first shelf, So that didn't make any sense that he would do it right there, especially after he was on his way to see his mom's house, after he just told 9 people he wasn't in that state of mind. And after he was saying they're going to get him and throw him and tear him limb from limb and take him out. All that is true, right? So the next witness comes by, and he's driving down I-40 eastbound, and he sees what looks to him, his words exactly to me, looks like a sheet or, and it's what he told me, a baby crib mattress or a sheet came off, a white thing, came down off that bridge. And he pulled up, and he was the only person there. It was early in the morning. It was, and 7 o'clock. And he kind of went around, and he looked out, and he said, it looked to me like a female or a mannequin. And I drove around, and I pulled over. And when I turned around and got in my car, I was shutting the door with my hand, and I looked up, and that's when the truck struck Isaac. Right. John Koch is running down the overpass ramp. And he's on the call 911. A second car comes up, and Robert Taylor, witness number 3, tells me in a personal interview, the second car struck Isaac, which is not in any of the reports. None of them. The driver of the second car was the off-duty controller or purchaser. I think it was the purchaser for the fire department that was the first responding unit on that scene that morning. So the fire department that showed up 5 minutes later, the woman that worked in the fire station a mile away, was the second car that allegedly hit Isaac. And Robert then turns around, witness number 3 turns around to witness number 5 and says, hey, that second car just hit him. And the other guy goes, no, it didn't. You couldn't have seen that. He said, I saw it. He said, no. Well, the woman runs up. Her name is Erin Hudman. Erin Hudman walks up, and 911 call says, does anyone there have any medical deal? And John says, does anyone have any medical stuff? And she says, yeah, I'm an EMT. He said, yes, we have an EMT. She checks Isaac's vitals. We don't know what happens at that point. There's no record of anything at that point, and everything's been blacked out on whatever information I could get from the Ponderosa Fire Department. They were no help at all, and I'll get into that later as well. But then the fire department shows up where she works for. They were the first one to respond out of Belmont, and then another fire truck showed up off the military base. The military base sent a fire truck out, which is not unheard of, but it's not common. It's like 1 in a million. For some reason, they decided to send a truck out that day, right there. For whatever reason, no one knows. They never even explained it. And then one of the witnesses, Robert, in my personal interview with him, he tells me, the weird thing, man? I said, what's that? He said, that woman that was there, the other witness, she went around and she told me, and she talked to the other guys too, but she told me, write down the least amount of information you can think of, or you have to. You don't want to be a part of this. Write down the least amount of information on your witness report. You don't want to be involved in things like this. Why the hell would the woman who works for the fire department, the responding fire department, on her way to work that morning, tell witnesses there not to fill out information in detail? Right? So you have the 2 brothers up on top of the bridge, right there next to Isaac. You have John Koch forward on the other side of the bridge. These 2, their vehicle stopped. John Koch's vehicle stopped. Isaac's in the middle. Isaac goes over for some reason. Robert Taylor, witness number 3, gives what I believe to be an honest account. Witness number 4, Erin Hudman, strikes him again, allegedly, according to Robert Taylor, and then says then the witness number 5 says no, she didn't. And then Erin proceeds to tell the other witnesses not to fill out anything on the witness reports. That's what happened that day. It was cleaned up within a matter of 3 hours, maybe 2 hours. Well, the road was opened back up when I drove through there at 9:26. The road was opened up. TMZ said it didn't open up till like 10 something. However, when I spoke to I called up the tow company, and I spoke to the driver who actually went out there and picked up Isaac's car, and they had opened by 8:30. So the road was opened by 8:30. TMZ said it wasn't until 10. The whole thing stinks. The 2 brothers up on top of the bridge that were right there next to Isaac before he went over, they're the sons of a fire chief in Flagstaff. Erin Hudman, witness number 4, is, again, the purchaser for the fire department, who, by the way, got promoted 2 days later and moved. right? You got John Koch, who I believe is ex-Arizona customs officer. You got Eric Beatty with the video that you just showed from his dash cam. He works for the Army base there. The only two outliers you got are Forrest Scott Proctor, witness number 6, the guy that ran over Isaac the first time, and Robert Taylor, who's ex-Navy, and in my opinion, probably the most honest person there that day. He said, I saw a lot, Corey. I saw a lot of action. I saw a lot of stuff my whole life. I've been in the military, seen some bad stuff. And I can tell you what, on that scene that day, there was something off. I don't know what it was. I don't know what was going on, but it wasn't a normal scene. It looked normal. People were doing what they were supposed to be doing, but you could feel it. I knew something was wrong. And then you reached out to me a couple months later. He said the whole thing was off. It was just off. And I couldn't put my finger on it. So that's the official story of how Isaac died. He went over, but that's what I uncovered right there. Do I think he's gone? Do I have reason to believe that Isaac may have been extricated? I do. After the Charlie Kirk thing, I think Charlie, and I've always been down on this from the very beginning, but we do have one phone call from a dispatch that I captured, and the officer is asking to be shown in a different location he's actually at. With a witness. And I don't know what that means, but he says, hey, show me at over here when I'm over here when I got a witness. So did they grab Isaac and pull him out? I mean, if you go and look he
had a heart rate of 40 beats per minute on the ground.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And when you played this dash cam, the first time you played it, Shaun, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A dash cam should take a video going straight forward. And I'm not sure if it was the way. Can you just roll it again so I could look at it? There's something I want to see. The first time you played it, the first pass, I want to see that. There's something my brain caught, and I want to have a look.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. Here we go. All right. So while people are watching, let me just tell everybody that the links for the Phoenix Enigma website are in the description box. I'll put them in the live chat as well. And Corey is on X. I've got that link down there as well. And if you want to watch the part 1 we did with these guys, that's down there as well. I've just put it in the live chat again. And thank you for all of the questions coming in. We will get those to our guests.
So many good questions in the audience, man.
Is this the point you wanted to watch, Alicia?
Yeah, I just want to watch as it passes him.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for all the questions coming in, guys. And if you missed the very beginning, we did show a clip of Isaac. He was basically saying the whole system revolves around compromise. They just want to get you compromised, so they own you. And this is exactly what we believe Jeffrey Epstein was doing. Honey trap, compromise.
All right.
From Bill Clinton to ex-Prince Andrew. He had them all. Is that, have you seen the bit you wanted to see, Alicia?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to look at it again here at home because we have it. I'm going to look at it again here at home. There's something I'm seeing, and I'm not sure if it's the way this is edited or if it's something that's happening on the dash cam. And I want to be,
there's a much cleaner version of this.
Well, there is, but it's what I'm looking at is I'm not sure if the editing is bringing him so that, or if the dash cam is turning, because it wouldn't make what I'm seeing is the dash cam is turning.
Okay, so the dash cam.
Let me finish. So what I'm seeing is, I know that it's got a 180-degree view, and when the last time you played, because it ran 3 in a row, the last time you played it, I saw that he kind of just passed the window on the side over here, but I want to see. I want to see this because most people, why would anybody not knowing who this man is on the bridge? Why would anybody, I would think you would just drive by, see, here he is, he's going to disappear into the side here. But it looks like if you're looking at the hood of the car that the camera's turning. So it's looking even more manufactured to me is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So me and I don't want to name him, but one of the members of our original research group, we looked at that distortion on the edge and we tracked down from the camera there. That camera lens has a bit of a fisheye on the very, very edge.
That's not what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm looking at the movement of the hood of the truck.
Oh, right.
I'm looking at the movement of the hood of the truck. If you're just cruising on to work and there's a guy on the bridge, your camera's going to pick it up and you're going to get that kind of corner thing over here.
Mhm.
I understand that, but it looks to me like the camera's turning across the hood of the car. And I don't know if that's the
Pause that.
editing. I don't know if that's the editing or right.
Yeah, so
The person who edited this, or if the person driving the car turned the camera.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because the camera's panning in this.
I think what he
clip.
did, because I think I know who did this video here.
Okay.
And what he's showing, you see how the cursor's going up and down.
Yeah.
They're pointing to the back of Isaac's back right there,
The shadowing and
the shadowing on the legs. To me, it looks like this is pasted in there. This looks photoshopped as hell to me. I think what they did, that looks like Isaac already gone. That looks like Isaac muerte. And it looks like he's sideways on a table with his legs propped up, and they took a picture and they put it like that and they stuck it in there. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, the up close photos of his face here, that he has what is it called when the blood pools?
Yes.
So he's got this in his cheeks and
Yeah.
his mouth is hanging.
His mouth is hanging open right there. His hands are folded. This looks like this is just hubris at this point. I think Isaac's gone here. I think this is Isaac's dead body. In my opinion, I told his mother this as well. I think they put that in there just to do it one last time, just like they do with the Charlie Kirk stuff and all the other psyops that they run on people. That's what it looks like to me.
It looks totally unnatural.
Yep.
Yeah. Even the color of his hands in the close-up photos, they have that batychia in their hands, in his hands. Yeah. There's something terribly wrong here.
Yeah. And there's another aspect to the story too that we don't get into too often. It was there's two more aspects actually. First of all, there was the homeless guy. There was the homeless man up there. When I started talking to the girl at she's a woman at the pilot station right there next to the Days Inn, she told me that when I caught her, she goes, "Oh yeah, the homeless guy, he unalived himself. He went over." I said, "What do you mean the homeless guy?" She goes, "That guy that went over a couple days ago, that was the homeless guy." I'm like, "What do you mean he's homeless guy?" And I showed her a picture and she goes, "Yeah, that's him." I said, "This is Isaac Kappy." She goes, "Yeah, that's his name." I said, "He wasn't homeless." She goes, "No, he lived behind the station here. He's been here for like the 3 weeks that I've worked here." I said, "Oh." She goes, "Yeah, he comes in every day, got some cigarettes and beer." I said, "What kind of cigarettes?" She goes, "Oh, the cheap ones." And he gets a thing of the high gravity. I said, "What days?" And she told me all the days he was there. I said, no, he's in Apple Valley. He was with some other people. She's like, "No, that guy that went over the bridge, that Isaac Kappy guy, that's the guy who's lived here for the last 3 weeks that I've been here." So I get on a Facebook group of Belmont and I find all the posts and they're like, the homeless guy, he unalived himself, the homeless guy. So I infiltrated that group. I started asking him questions. I tracked them all down individually and I got 8 stories. And they all told me, yeah, the guy's been here since February, March, April, and then half of May. So 3.5 months, a guy that looked identical to Isaac Kappy was hanging out under the McDonald's sign at the pilot station. Literally every one of them said, "That's the Isaac Kappy. That's the guy that's been here." There was a dead ringer for Isaac who was living at that gas station right behind it. But they all told me, no, he wasn't there every day. He was there like 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week, but usually 2 to 3 days a week. And on what day was it? If you go into the mind map, go under the homeless man at the top left-hand corner, you can read all my initial notes on this. But she said that he had showed up there and said, "I can't do it anymore. I'm tired." It was a Friday. It was the same day Isaac did that video with the wood panel behind him, with the jean jacket on. So it lasted about an hour. On that day, the homeless guy came in and said, "Hey, I can't do it anymore. I'm going to unalive myself." And she says, "No, don't." And she got him a sandwich. And I think she got him a shower at the truck stop there. And then the last time she saw him, he was headed out towards, on Friday, I think it was, he headed out towards the overpass, and he was looking for a ride westbound, and he disappeared. And like the next day, Isaac leaves for his mom's house. In fact, I think it was Sunday when she said the last time she saw him. So the day Isaac left for his house is the day the homeless guy took off. And that's just too much of a coincidence that the homeless guy leaves, is never seen again. And then Isaac shows up that night in Belmont, Arizona, due to a flat tire, and unalives himself after the guy inside the gas station told the lady, "I'm going to unalive myself." These are just too many coincidences to
while
happen.
telling everybody else on the planet that he did not want that to happen to him.
Yeah. So do I think Isaac was killed? Yes. I think it was a top-down operation. I think I know Isaac was moving information through his White House contact to Trump. You want my personal opinion? I think Trump, someone in the administration, Isaac believed that Trump was a good guy, that Trump was the white hat. Trump was going to come in and save America and save the world and stop all these PDF files and all this international crime syndicates. I don't think Isaac understood or believed that Trump was compromised, and has been compromised probably since the 90s, involved with the CIA and the FBI and the international, whatever group they're in, elite predators that they are. I think that Isaac didn't understand that Trump was part of that. And when Isaac got the information up there and they realized that Isaac's got real compromising information, someone pulled that trigger, so to speak. That's what I think happened. One way or another, that's what it looks like happened. Or they pulled Isaac out. But I don't know why he would make plans with Alicia. I don't know why. But then again, his mother didn't examine the body. They just gave Isaac, or they gave his mother.
Gave his effects to her.
The belt. He had 3 debit cards, a passport, an expired driver's license, a Vaughn's card, a Ralph's card, a Lowe's card. He had
something in a weird little paper packet.
Yeah. He had 10 forms of ID on him. Who carries 10 forms of ID on their pocket? So that all happened. There was the cell phone incident. You can see it on camera. It's in the mind map as well. I think under unexplained or some other category I got in there, where the fire department walks up, and it's filmed from the viewpoint of the officer, and the fire department walks up. He goes, "Hey," and he has the iPhone. He goes, "I don't know if this is yours, one of your guys's, or his," and points to Isaac on the ground and says, "But we found this over there where the body was." And I'm thinking, what the body was? Okay, well, the body didn't move that much, because witness Robert said the body just moved like 2 feet because the jacked up truck ran over him, and the front axle.
You could tell by his very light colored clothing that he also did not roll.
Yeah, he didn't roll. He just, Isaac's feet were kind of pointed west. So when the truck hit him, it went over, but it was a jacked up F-150. And the front axle, he said, struck Isaac in the head right here. And
some people got a hold of images from this and said that this person on the ground had a tattoo on the ribs. But it turns out, with very close examination, that was actually the diagram of where to place the paddle patches, the defibrillating patches. So, if you come across that information, it's not a tattoo, it's the defibrillation patches. Mm-hmm. There were things about the scene that people just breezed over, and there were things about the scene that people really obsessed over. My biggest problem with the whole and entire mess was that they spent less than 45 seconds in his hotel room. This, to me, was gross negligence on the part of the police department there, all agencies involved.
So they split the investigation up into 3 pieces. You had the Department of Public Safety, or the Arizona DPS. They handled the I-40 body on the ground. Then you had the Coconino County Sheriff's Department handle what happened right here on top of the bridge, interviewing witnesses and whatnot. Right. Then you had the fire department, which had their report when they responded down there. I'll tell you something I found out since the last time I talked to you, Shaun. I went through from the beginning and I started lining up all the evidence again, going through it from the beginning, which is what someone said, Corey, you should really do that. Go to the beginning and start over. My God, the things I found when I'm not on air every day, I'm not being bombarded and accosted by chaos agents, when the emotions aren't running high, can think clearly. I found that the report numbers in the sheriff's office report, right, from the Ponderosa Fire Department. So I called Ponderosa and I'm like, hey, I need these 2 report numbers. And they stonewalled me for about 3 weeks. I finally got them. And one of them was from that day, and the other one's from a previous day, and neither of them were for Isaac. So the fire department gave the sheriff's department 2 separate files on 2 separate people, not even the same person, 2 separate calls, and said, these are for the thing in question here. I thought that's weird. So I went back to the fire department and said, these aren't the right ones. This isn't Isaac's deal. I want Isaac Kappy. And they go, oh, okay. So then they give me Isaac Kappy's report. Finally, this has been like 5 weeks now, and everything's redacted. There's nothing in it. Nothing about blood pressure, nothing. Just, we showed up. We identified him later as Isaac Kappy. We gave treatment. It was pretty just redacted and blah. I said, I need more information. Well, they said, well, that's all that you get unless you're family. I'm like, all right. So I said, why did you give the other 2 numbers that aren't even Isaac Kappy's reports to the sheriff's department? And they said, we gave the sheriff's office the right numbers. It's not our fault if they write it down wrong. So I go back to the sheriff's department. I say, why, did you guys get you guys got the wrong numbers written down? They said, well, we just write down what they give us. So they're playing the he said, she said. I called the medical examiner's office. I said, you are aware of Isaac's status and what he was involved in? Yes. I said, did you call anyone back at home? You're doing an investigation into the man's death. Did you investigate it? Well, insofar as, but it was an unaliving according to the, self unaliving. And, that's what we looked for. And that's what we found. I said, did you investigate it though? Like, why is his belt on inside out? His belt buckle, his belt is like, they put the belt on and turn the whole thing all the way around inside out. Why is that? No one thought that was weird, apparently. Why, when they searched his body for effects, they left a pack of cigarettes in there, Things just didn't add up. And they bifurcated the entire investigation so that no one's accountable. And just like with the Charlie Kirk stuff, just like, and it's impossible to track down. Then I actually said, I'm going to call and interview the officer here who wrote the report. So I call up and I ask for the officer who wrote the report, and they go, who is that? And I said, it's officer, I believe it's Montoya. And they said, sir, we don't have an officer Montoya here. I said, you do? They said, no, we don't. I said, no, you do, because I'm looking at a report number, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, okay, we've never had a Montoya. I said, well, they said, well, what's his badge number? I said, it's 70, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, sir, we don't even have 7,000 series badge numbers yet. The first sheriff of Arizona was 1, and then 2. And if you join as a deputy, you get the next number. We're not even up in the 7,000 series yet. I said, I am looking at a report with his name and badge number and the superior in the badge number. And they go, well, then what's his superior? And I say, oh, it's this guy. And they say, oh, yeah, we have him. I said, give me his number. They patch me through. I leave a message. I get a call on like Sunday morning at 9 a.m. off duty hours for a detective. And he's like, this is Detective so what can I do for you? And I said, yeah, I'm looking into this case here. He goes, what's the name? And who are you? I said, I'm just a citizen journalist and I'm looking for blah, blah. And I said, Isaac Kappy. He's like, I barely remember this one. I'm thinking to myself, you don't remember the Isaac Kappy case? The biggest case with the most phone calls you've ever had at the Coconino County Sheriff's Office in your life? The thing that's still going on 6 years later. You don't remember this? And I said, how come your dispatcher on 2 separate occasions is telling me that you don't have an officer Montoya? Well, that's ridiculous. I've been working with Montoya. He's a good old boy. He's retired now though, and he's fishing right now, blah, blah, and he's doing this good old boy story. And I'm like, So he said, so that dispatcher was, they were just wrong or new. I said, sir, it was 2 dispatchers a week apart. they both told me no Montoya has ever worked here. He goes, well, I know Montoya, and I'm telling you that he's working. What do you think is going on here? Some kind of conspiracy? I'm like, yeah, I do. I don't know what's going on, but it ain't the truth, man. And he kind of said he had to go and hung up. So we got mismatching numbers on the reports. You got sheriffs that work there that don't work there. You got badge numbers that don't exist. The whole thing is a cover-up of something, and I don't think we know what it is yet. Either Isaac was extricated or he's gone and it was a hit. One or the other. And, either's possible. Neither would surprise me.
He was too far ahead of his time, and he was a huge liability to them. Elisa, a couple more questions have come in for yourself. What one person was asking, how did you originally meet Isaac?
Well, I joined his Telegram room and participated in the chat there. And then on the 8th, in the Telegram room, he put a little note and said, hey, could somebody come and visit me? Because I'm lonely and I need some company. And so I messaged him about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 or 3 o'clock, and asked if he had any takers on the visit. And he said no, and he seemed pretty down about it. And so I went way out of my comfort zone, my own personal comfort zone. I am the qualified capital introvert, and going, meeting people, especially people from the internet. But I'd been in the chat room. I'd seen him there. I'd spoken to him a few times in there. I thought he sounds really down and something feels like he needs attention. So I told him I'd stop at the grocery when I was done with work, and picked up some dinner and took it out and cooked dinner for him. So that was Wednesday night before everything happened. And I visited with him for a couple of hours. And then we made plans to get together again on Saturday. And we had a long visit on Saturday. And I apologize for not going into a whole lot of details on this. Still to this day, it's very difficult for me to talk about. And it kind of wrecks me for a couple of days. So what's your next question?
Okay, so the next question then is from Marcus. What was the last thing he was working on? Because that might be a key.
Isaac was very private with me about things that he was doing. One thing I did interview him about specifically was making sure that he was not suicidal. And because I did suicide intervention, and I knew the questions to ask when a person was in trouble, when a person might need an intervention, and I wanted to be sure that what we were seeing and what we were kind of sensing in the group about his downness and fear, I wanted to be really clear. And so I interviewed him a little bit about it. We talked about it. I asked him all the questions, and the questions and the answers that he gave me were that he was a man that wanted to be alive, that he wanted a wife and family, he wanted kids, but he was terrified about what was coming for him. And he knew it was going to be bad. And he said, it might be easier if I do it myself, but I don't want to do that. I want to live. So, yeah. I don't know. He did tell me as we were walking on Saturday up and down the hall in his house, that, and he had mentioned this before, that something had happened in the blink of an eye, and that he had a realization in the blink of an eye that people around him, he didn't say this much in his broadcast, but he did say to me that in the blink of an eye, he realized that the people around him were not who he thought they were. And those were the people that had tricked him. And he felt foolish and horrified and embarrassed, and because he didn't see it until something just clicked over, and he went, in the blink of an eye, it just all blew up. And I knew that these people were not who they said.
Question
I'd like
from Bram. Okay, go for it.
I just wanted to add that an individual representing a small group of individuals who first approached Isaac Kappy when he came out within a couple days is also the same individual who approached me within about a week of investigating Isaac Kappy and infiltrated my group and had my confidence for 5 months until I pushed that individual away. It is the same individual that has been stalking and harassing a number of people, myself and Alicia included, for the last 6 years. It's the same individual that a number of people have gone to the FBI and filed official reports over last February. A decision for recommendation of prosecution has been given for this individual. This person is involved with a lot of online shenanigans, a lot of dark behavior.
That's
but
adequate.
that adequate?
That's
Is that
adequate.
still understating it? It's still understating the amount of damage and terror of this individual. Anyway,
Well, I want to add, because it kind of fits in with the question that was hanging on the screen there. Was I not afraid that somebody would come to my house if Isaac came to my house?
God, tell that story if you want.
So on Saturday when I was there, he was checking windows. He was very upset and scared. And I don't know. I thought maybe, if we didn't take my car and his car sat in the driveway, it'd be less likely, there would be a chance that he could come to my place and be secure at least for a little while. I didn't think I was in that kind of danger because I wasn't sure what kind of danger he was in, just that he was very scared. So after he was gone, I was on the Wednesday after he was gone, I was planning to meet one of the individuals from the Famalam chat for some tea and hugs because we were all just so shaken. And we were looking for a place on the map between us where we could meet in the middle. And so he sent me a pin drop of information about where to meet him. And when I opened the pin drop, I opened it up to an image of a long range rifle. Well, that's weird. Maybe I opened it wrong because technology. So I opened it again and it was there again. The third time I opened it, the image was gone. We changed our location and met somewhere else. The following day on Tom Hanks' handkerchief Instagram, there was a new post of a handkerchief named with the first name of my Telegram handle and an image of a motorhome and some desert and cactus. And Corey will explain why that's relevant. I didn't even think about that being relevant. I was just so freaked out that my name was on it. And then on Friday, on Wednesday also, before I went to see my friend for tea, my messages with Isaac had been archived. I thought they were gone. I didn't know how that happened. I didn't even know that you could archive things on Telegram. And my friend said, hey, check your archive and see if it accidentally went there. And he told me how to get to the archive and it was there. But on Friday morning, when I couldn't find it again in my thread and it wasn't in my archive and it wasn't anywhere, my conversation with him was completely wiped. My home address was in there, my personal phone number, my real first and last name, because I was trying to build confidence in sharing things with Isaac so he would just not think that I was somebody from the internet, And so I gave him my real name. I gave him my home address. I gave him this information. And all of that was gone. So I'm having kind of a panicked morning. And I get a phone call about 9:45. And there's a man's voice on there, a deep, gravelly voice, and says, hey, are you Alicia? And I said, yes. And he goes, are you Alicia who does all these things? And I said, yes. And he said, "Are these your children?" And he named my children, and then he named my ex-husband, and then he named the business of my ex-husband, and then all of this. And he says, "By the way, I would like to have a meeting with you this morning, and I'm on my way there." And I said, "Absolutely not. I am not available for a meeting." And I hung up the phone, and I called AT&T to change my number immediately so I could create some distance with this person. In the meantime, I sent the phone number to a couple other people, and I no longer have the number. But a few people looked the number up for me, and the number actually was associated with 8 different post boxes in Belmont, Arizona. And so, yes, I was scared. And so I have AT&T on the phone with me, and I said, "I need to change my number, and I need to know if I can do it while we're on the phone together." And they said, "Sure, we can do that." So I was in the process of doing that, and my phone fried. It completely burned up. It was a brand new phone. It had a full charge. I could not plug my phone in and get any action on my phone. I had to go to the leasing office in my complex, call my friend and have her come and be with me. And we called the police. And then I just lost my mind. The police came, and I said, "Listen, my friend Isaac died. I think he was killed. I've had crazy things happening to me all week. And I think someone's going to come. And I think if they come, they're going to kill me." And the police department's response to me was, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but until you've had contact with anybody, we can't do anything to help you.
Mm.
You probably should call the FBI." So I called the FBI. And when I said Isaac's name, they bumped me up a level. When I said Isaac's name again, they bumped me up, and they went pushing me up 3 different categories to talk to somebody. The person asked me all kinds of questions. And of course, by now I'm absolutely hysterical. I'm crying. I'm shaking. Everything about this is horrifying because I'm still thinking this man, and I'm thinking now about the long range rifle images, and I'm thinking I could be shot from my living room window and no one would even see where it came from. I got underneath my sofa and hid underneath my sofa in the back corner of my living room while I was on the phone with the FBI. About 2 years ago, my friend and I were talking about this incident. And she told me, "Do you remember that you wrote on your body, 'If anything happens to me, ask Tom Hanks, ask Jeffrey Epstein?" And she said, "And do you remember that you wrote it on your mirrors?" And in it all, I started remembering, and I had it on my mirrors, and I had it on papers in my purse and in my car. And sometimes I'd be so scared that I couldn't even walk to my car without calling somebody to come and walk from my apartment to my car. Yes, I was scared that someone was going to kill me. So all of this, talking about this today and not having it resolved and not having persons in jail who belong there, all of this, it has not gone away or lessened for me. It is an absolute terror.
And the voice that called you that morning is very similar, if not identical, to the person who's been stalking and harassing us for the past 5 going on 6 years now.
Yeah.
So for those of you interested, I can tell people are kind of angry. I'm not saying that name out, but the person is highly litigious, not the one we were discussing off air either. There's another person. He is, in my opinion, severely mentally ill, and he has been stalking people. He's a convicted stalker, actually, with ties to General Flynn, with ties to government agencies. He's testified in court under depositions that he was involved in 3-letter agencies trying to rally Kurds back in 2000 time, So yeah, he's not a harmless person, and this is very real. People, I see some people are detractors in the chat here trying to troll or whatnot, but this is real. This isn't for grifting. This isn't for making money. We don't make money on this. This isn't like, it's not a revenue stream. We have jobs. We have a life. This is just something that happened. This is an investigation I chose to get into. And I can't let it go. No one else is doing this, Shaun. No one else is trying to find what happened to Isaac. Everyone just let it go. I mean, I see things. It was Tom Hanks. Okay, you can say it was Hanks. You can say it was whoever, but that's not an answer. That's not an explanation. That's not what happened. But I feel it after January 30th of this year, with all the files coming out. Now's the time to dive back into it again. Now's the time, especially with our FBI case against this person who may be. Well, I will tell you this. For those of you wanting to know, you can reach out to me privately, or you can go find, there were 3 individuals that came out on the 14th of May, minutes after the world found out that Isaac had crossed over. And they said, if you want to know what happened to Isaac Kappy, you need to look at, and they dropped a name. 3 people did that. It's all over social media if you know where to look.
It was all the same name.
It was all the same name. It's the same name. And it's the same name associated with the institutionalization and or the potential death of several other people. Other people have been committed, have turned themselves in to mental health authorities, have been swatted and shot due to direct involvement with this person. It's my opinion that this person has more to do with the, how am I going to phrase this, with the events surrounding the death of Isaac Kappy than he would like the world to know about. I'll leave it at that.
All right, let me just say a few things then. So, Alicia, we salute your bravery in reliving this, and we appreciate you going there and sharing this with everybody. And Corey, absolutely no need to respond to trolls. It's totally good judgment not to name certain people, because all hell can break loose in various ways, and we don't want to put anyone at risk. So that's always there on the side of caution in situations like that. And we have had tons of questions come in. Someone's asking about the story of the cardboard.
Yeah, so the gentleman who ran over Isaac, his name was Forrest Scott Proctor. Forrest Scott Proctor. And I got his name, and I got put in touch with him from the lady, Randy was her name. She was the woman who worked at the pilot station. I got a hold of him. He called me. The first conversation I did not record because I was in my Jeep and I was driving to the bank that day. I remember right where I was. I pulled over, I started talking, and I asked him, I said, hey, what happened? Like, tell me the story, man. What happened here? And he said, I was going down the road. I'm going to tell you what he told me. Okay, this is what he told me, not whether I believe it or not, whether it makes sense or not. I'm going to tell you exactly what he told me. Okay. And he told me the same exact thing on a second interview on maybe about a month later or so. Maybe it was a little longer than that when I called him again, and I recorded, and that recorded conversation is in the mind map. But the first time I spoke to him, he told me the same thing as the second. It was this. I was going down the road. I was late. He lived in Ash Fork, and he was driving to Flagstaff for work in the morning. And he said, I was driving and I didn't see anybody in the road. And I saw what looked like a cardboard box in the road. And I saw a bunch of people up on the top on the bridge. They were all waving. And I said, okay. And then what? And he said, well, I thought it was a box of kittens. I said, I'm sorry, what? He said, I thought it was a box of kittens. I said, why would it be a box of kittens? He said, because I thought it was like a protest up on top. I said, you thought it was a protest? He goes, yeah, I thought it was a protest. And I thought it was like a PETA protest or something. I'm like, why would you think it's a PETA? He goes, I don't know, man. That's just what I thought, okay? You asked me what I'm telling you. I said, okay, all right, sorry, go on. And he said, and by the time I saw the box, I was going too fast and I couldn't swerve. So I decided just to run over it. And I ran over it. And then I realized when I hit it, there was something inside of it. It was big. And I pulled over. And if you go and look at the photographs in the mind map, you'll see the photo sections of where the officer walks down to the red truck. And it's like it's a good quarter mile away almost. And anyway, he said, so so I ran over the cardboard. And then I got out and turned out, started walking back. When I was walking back, the woman was pulling the cardboard over the body. I said, what? He goes, The woman was pulling the cardboard over the body. I said, the cardboard? He goes, yeah, the cardboard. I ran over to the cardboard box. I said, okay. And he was getting mad at me. And you can hear it. He hangs up on me the second time I spoke to him. And I said, okay, so then what? He goes, she was pulling the cardboard back over the body. I said, okay. And he goes, listen, man, I'm done. I've had enough. It was a traumatic event. I can't take anymore. Don't call me again. Click. And he hangs up. So he said he ran over a cardboard box. Does that make sense? Not in of itself. Could his mind have placed the cardboard box in there to protect, his psyche from running over somebody? Quite possibly. That's probably, I couldn't do that, but I live in reality. I asked Robert, was there cardboard there? Because Robert was there and saw him run him over, right? He said, Corey, there was no cardboard. I said, okay. But he saw the woman, and the woman was the one who worked for the fire department, and she was right there where Robert said she was. So everything else matches up except for the cardboard. And I don't know what to make of it.
Claire, you have a lot of questions because you're saying the woman. Will you clarify that that's Erin Hudman?
Erin Hudman, who was one of the witnesses. Erin Hudman, she was the one. If you go to Eyewitness Testimonies, you can listen to the phone call when I spoke to him. But Erin Hudman is the one, and she is the off-duty purchaser for the fire department, the responding fire department. He said, and that's the only woman that was down there, right? She was the only one. So Forrest Scott Proctor, witness 6, said she was pulling it back over. But when you go to Forrest Scott Proctor's report, if you click on his name there, he just wrote like 2 sentences. You know why? Probably because she probably told him to write down the least amount of information necessary too, because he probably didn't want to be involved in that, because that's what she told Robert. He said, where were you just prior to the accident? Heading east on I-40 in Belmont. 2 cars veered to the side. I hit something in the road, pulled over, walked back, and seen it was a person. Heard something hit my undercarriage, so I pulled over. That's what he wrote. However, he tells me a story about running over a cardboard box, and he thought it was kittens and a PETA thing. And I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But I called it Cardboard Gate, in the mind map for what it's worth. And I'm not trying to sell a narrative. I'm not trying to convince you it's true. I'm telling you, this is what I found out during the process of the investigation. We've
got a question here we've not had before. Have you heard of Emily Eusis? Friends, associates of director Justin Silverman, friends of Macaulay Culkin. Isaac mentioned Seth and Macaulay.
No,
Culkin.
Never heard that name.
I got a screen clip of that for you for later.
Okay.
And no, the body on the ground looked like a live person to me. It looked like Isaac. The shape of the thumbnails were right.
Sharkbelly identified moles on his skin that she knew because she had spent time with Isaac as
It
well.
was Isaac.
Should we tell the story of the film?
Which film?
The person from California that came out and wanted to do that film.
Yeah.
So another thing that transpired since all this, Shaun, we were approached to make a movie about Isaac Kappy, and I was very hesitant, because when you're doing this, the detractors come out and call you, you're a grifter, you're just here to make the money, you're just exploiting Isaac and blah, 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 blah. And that's just not the case, right? But we'd had someone who approached us for a movie. And I said, all right, I'll listen to what you got. And me and Alicia talked. If we did a movie, it was going to be a serious movie. It was going to be one that's
not going to be a joke. It was going to be documentary style, factual, respectful, nothing made up. If we didn't know the answer, it wasn't going to be.
We were going to leave it and say we didn't know it, right? It wasn't going to be to weave a narrative. So we're working with this person, and she brings her associate out, and we're going through. She's okay, we can do this and we can do that, and we can make it kind of a funny, lighthearted thing. And I'm like, I don't know if we like that, And so we're talking about what we're going to do potentially. She goes back to California. She comes out and she says, well, I got the first episode done, and she gives me a script. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. This person was supposed to be, a writer for Hollywood. She then sends us a purchase option agreement. And within a purchase option agreement, are you familiar with those?
Explain what that is, please.
So let's say a producer comes to me and Alicia and says, we want to purchase your story for a project we're working on. We're going to purchase it for 2 years, and that'll give us time to find a director, find the actors, get the money together, put the whole thing together. So in that 2 years, you can't sign contracts with anyone else and talk about this or exploit it yourself. So within that, we took the contract to a contract attorney here in Phoenix. And he said, he called us back, said, usually there's about 24 things you can put into a purchase agreement. Usually you'll put 3 or 4 or 5, maybe it's a complicated project. You might put 6 or 7 or 10. He said, all 24 are in here. Like this would remove your rights to start a movie, tell the story, continue what you're doing. This would lock up Isaac Kappy's story from you, prevent you from talking about it for the next 5 years. How much were they going to? I said, she wanted to pay us $15,000. He goes, well, if you want $15,000, you don't want to talk about this for 5 years. You can do that. But if you do, then they're going to sue you. And he says, it looks like, he said, this is how they get people to shut up without threatening you. They'll buy the story from you and then sue you. Lawfare. So when we figured out that was happening, we realized that, oh, wait, it looks like we're trying to be shut up. And then we find out the person worked for Seth Green.
Wow.
So make of that what you will.
You got a question here. Did the homeless guy ever show up?
No. In fact, because I'm from Arizona and I am a guide and I travel that and I have friends all the way from Kingman to Winslow. I put the word out to keep an eye out for anybody at truck stops. I knew a lot of the people back then when I was touring hard. I asked the guys and girls at the cashiers, look for this guy for me. And I put pictures. No one ever popped up that looked like that. Nope. Just disappeared. I have half a mind to believe that whoever that homeless guy was working for the feds and was basically just coming from across the street from the military base, dressed up like a bum, went out there, worked a day or two, went back to the base. That's who I think it was. That's what makes sense to me, because Belmont, Arizona is one of the coldest places in Arizona. The wind comes right off that mountain there and off Humphreys Peak from 12,600 feet. And you can go a couple miles in either direction, like 20, 30 miles. It gets a lot warmer. And he was there during that. It was a very, very cold winter in 2019. And it was one of the coldest places in the state from February to May. So that a homeless person would be in that location that year at that time is kind of crazy. You would head down to Kingman, or you'd go down I-17 back to Phoenix or Camp Verde at least. You wouldn't hang out at Belmont.
Sounds like one of the cast of characters from the Kennedy assassination. So Ron is asking, is it possible some people were pushing Isaac to do something to himself?
Yes.
Yes.
The person I mentioned earlier.
Got you.
And many people believe that.
Okay. Did you see the body cam from the state police?
Yes, they're in the mind map. You can go under scene photos and recordings, left-hand side under evidence. They're all there.
A link for mind map and website is in the live chat right now and in the description box. Did Isaac come up in the Epstein files?
No.
Okay. How did he get to the bridge? Do we know?
How did he get to the bridge that morning?
Yeah.
According to the night manager, Isaac was last seen at 7-Eleven walking from the front door of the Days Inn, south and west across the parking lot towards the bridge. He walked over there, according to the night manager.
Did Isaac say he was hearing voices?
Oh, yeah. Alicia can attest to that.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He told me on Wednesday that he was being bombarded with loud music and talking and conversation that was happening in his head. He also told me that it was nonstop and it was very loud. And
well, you had the situation. I don't know if you want to get into that or not, but you had the situation.
Well, and he also told me that he was doing a lot of time meditating, and I didn't really understand how much time meditating he was doing till Saturday. I was there a long time on Saturday, so we sat down on the couch and he had taken his sandals off, and trying to calm him down, I took his feet to rub his feet because retired massage therapist, you do those things. And so I took his feet and the tops of his feet in the little knuckles, like where your toe and your foot meet, were all scabbed up from kneeling down on his carpet and getting up and kneeling down on his carpet and praying. No, I don't know if he was drugged. I don't know if he was drugged, but I know he wasn't on drugs. I was in his house. I was in his room. There was no drug paraphernalia. There was no weed. There were no signs of other drugs. The house was clean. And his room was impeccable. It was beautiful. People came on later and said, he was a drug addict. And Michelle said his room was a mess and he made a disaster of the house. It's not true. Everything was in order. He was clean in his body. He was clean in his living space. Everything about this. He was not a meth addict. He wasn't on cocaine. He wasn't on any of those kind of drugs that would amp you up. And the talk screen showed that was true.
Hold on. Here's the list of things we can't say on air.
It's all right. It's just
Sorry,
like
Sean.
Sorry.
It's just a case of not saying those words too many times because there's a threshold.
Okay.
And, yeah.
So
we usually over on Rumble, so we don't have to watch our tongues over there,
Yeah, so he wasn't drugged and he wasn't on drugs.
Not only that, his toxicology came back clean, with the exception of a little bit of THC, and that was it. And by the way, his toxicology report is in the mind map. You can read it under documents.
Yeah. He was a juicer and he liked fresh food, and I forget where we were going with
Redefine juicer.
Oh, sorry. Fresh fruit squeezes in the blender with fruits and vegetables. So there you go.
Not steroids.
Not steroids.
Yeah.
And I will say this, when I got there on Wednesday, I was surprised. I know the camera adds weight to us, right? But I didn't even think about that. And when he opened the door to greet me, he was almost skeletal. The bones in his face were very sharp, and his body was just a little tiny frail man. He was so little. I'm little, and I could wrap my arms all the way around him and come back to myself. He was so tiny. And his weight on the report was 142 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he, stress was getting him.
You're getting asked about, do you know whether about his trip to Australia or him meeting?
Yes, like Jamba Juice.
Yeah, I do. In fact, I was just working on this last week. So I guess for the letter of the alphabet we can't say, can we say 17? 17 and on?
Oh, yeah. Go for it, yeah.
Is that okay? Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So Isaac was very, very, very involved with 17 and on. The person I mentioned earlier, actually, allegedly, from people who've told me, was always calling him, going on about that. Other people involved with Isaac were telling him, hey, the 17 and on thing isn't real, man. It's a psyop. It's a psyop. Like, don't buy into it. Get off of it. We started it, and I believe I do know who started that. He's been out. He's done interview after interview. I don't know why people don't know this. People are still wondering who the 17 guy is, and I think the world knows who it is now. And if you pay attention and want to get involved in that circle, you'll understand who it is too. It's not a great mystery anymore. But that person was also known to Isaac, and Isaac knew that person. So Isaac was around the key people that were pivotal with the 17 and on situation. Okay. During that time, Fiona Barnett was talking to Isaac over here. He had a character by the name of El High Priest who was interviewing with people known to Isaac as well in those circles. Isaac needed to get over to Australia. He wanted to go to Australia and do something. No one knew where he got the money. I know where he got the money. He sold a Bitcoin. He had two, and he had cashed one out, and gave him the $7,000 to buy a ticket to go down to Australia. That's how we got there. Once he got there, if you go to the timeline in the Isaac Kappy mind map, and you go to 2018-19 timelines on the very, very top, when you get to October 22nd, Isaac flies to Australia. Isaac stays with Fiona initially from the 23rd until an unknown time. Isaac travels to different cities while in Australia. The first week in November, Isaac stays in Sydney. Isaac claims he caught Illuminati spying on him in Sydney. And on November 2nd, he told Elohai Priest about it. They were friends at this point. Elohai told him they were private label United Nations agents. November 4th, Isaac texts a friend and says, I'm all right. Just kind of over everything, tired of the stupid planet and all the idiots here. November 5th through 10th, he's in Melbourne. Maybe, allegedly. I don't know. But that's the news I got. It's unconfirmed. November 10th at 1:42, he texts a friend, says, I'm in Melbourne. The same day at 2:15, he says, on the plus side, I'm staying in Sydney, has two friends, and they love me so much. Oh, yeah. Isaac tells a friend how depressed he is. November 15th, Isaac texts a friend. He's on the Gold Coast. He linked up with Elohai. Looks like I'm in Australia until December 13th, he says. And another message soon after that. 23rd of November, he's with Elohai Priest still. November 23rd, he messages a friend. And in regard to drinking, he says he's not drinking. He can count the number of drinks he's had on one hand while over there. Isaac, there was a situation that happened with the Prime Minister of Australia, of the Conservative Party. Remember, I don't know if you recall a scandal or not, Sean, where his best friend, was caught on a phone call saying, I have, honey, show me that list again. Give me that list. I have, there's so many words in this next sentence. I don't want to get Sean in trouble from the YouTube cops. He said, all right, I have a friend. The guy on the phone was the best friend of the Prime Minister of the Conservative Party in power at that time in Australia. He was recorded on a line saying, I have the Prime Minister's ear, and I'm going to tell him all about the SRA.
Yep.
I'm going to tell him all about the CP. I'm going to tell him all about the self-unaliving of different people, stuff to that effect. The human transportation. I'm going to tell him all that, and I'll convince him to open up an investigation to all of this stuff. Right. Okay. The Prime Minister's best friend who got caught on a phone call saying that, his son's name is Jesse. Jesse was in the Famalam, and Isaac saw him while he was in Australia. Is it possible? And I'm not saying this is what happened, but is it possible that Isaac was weaponized into a psyop, told things about the 17 Anon situation that weren't true, because there were people over here telling him, dude, it's BS. Drop it. Yes, the things you're talking about are real. Yes, the SRA stuff is real. The CP stuff is real. The child transportation stuff is real. All that's real, but the 17 Anon stuff is not. It's a red herring. It's misdirection. It's bad information. It's misinformation, disinformation, right? It's being convoluted. And I think Isaac was so spun up because he had opened his heart and his phone and his email to any SRA survivor to come. And he was on the phone. I talked to all of his friends in the family. He was on the phone 24/7. People were always calling him with these horror stories about what happened. And and we had the same thing happen to us after the investigation. People were calling us and emailing us 1 or 2 or 3 a day, trying to get us wrapped up into investigations, just spitting us off left and right. If I said, dude, I can't do this anymore. This is insanity. So I know how Isaac felt because we were given the same treatment in the aftermath while investigating Isaac. Literally everything that's happened to Isaac, they just turned against us. But me and Alicia, we have each other. Isaac had nobody, We're a little more defensive. We're in Arizona. We have weapons here. We play with our weapons here. You've been to Arizona, right? Yeah. We're not, from California. We're not pacifists, not by a damn sight. So, I have a little more survival instincts than maybe Isaac did. So we're handling it better. But that being said, is it possible that Isaac was spun up with the 17 Anon psyop, deployed to Australia in order to give bad information and funneled into the political system over there, which ended up getting him unelected. And they changed, maybe the Labor Party or something took over. Could that have happened? Was it a side psyop? Maybe. That's very real possibility. I'm not saying that did happen for certain, but could it have happened like that? Absolutely. Have we seen stuff like that happen in the United States? I mean, we got Milo on air right now telling about, Benny Johnson at the, at those events with the young men while his wife is down. We got all kinds of people dropping information, trying to sabotage people's, careers and get people like they're political operatives. They're political operatives. Could Isaac have been weaponized into a political operative? Hell yes. In fact, he probably was at some level, whether we'll ever know it or not. I can only imagine with the company he kept, the amount of people that were in touch with him and the state of his mind towards the end. He didn't know what was up or down or sideways or real or not. He was completely, his brain was fragmented a million directions. It is so sad to see.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I didn't know about the Australia stuff. And anyone who's got reach like that, they get co-opted or there's an attempt to co-opt them. So next question, was Kappy's car anywhere near the day he was unalived?
Yeah, it's right there. It was in the, there's pictures of his car on the mind map again, under photos. You can see the pictures of the inside of his car, the back of his car, all of it. The front right tire's blown. It was, if you're at the Days Inn Hotel and you walk out of the lobby, it's in the front left parking lot, the second spot in on the farthest one out. That's where it was at. How did it get there though? Because Isaac was broken down. From what I understand, if I got the story right from his mother, he had come up the off ramp to where John Koch had actually parked the next day when Isaac went over the bridge. He was parked right in that area over there. He must have walked, checked in, went and got his car, and drove the flat tire car back to the parking lot. But that's where the Winona tow company towed it from. I made sure that was the exact spot. And there's photos of it right there.
There's a question here. Is there a Phil Collins song incident with Isaac, Alicia?
Yes, you, Alicia.
Yeah. So on Saturday when I was there, Isaac had walked probably 20 miles up and back his hall, and he was hungry. And he told me he hadn't eaten in a few days. So he wanted to go get some tacos. And I still don't have an explanation for this that makes any sense other than one for me. We got in the car, and when we went for tacos, he looked out the window. He looked out the bedroom window. He looked out the front window, and he made a dash out the front door, and he ran and got in my car, and he got in the passenger side, and he scooched down low so that he could just barely see over the dash. And I got in the car, and he gave me some directions about where to go. We kind of took a long way through the neighborhood and then down the road. And then we made a left-hand turn, and we were turning into an area where you would kind of have businesses that were a little more industrial, not like office buildings but places where you might get your car worked on or things like this. And as we turned left onto that road, we didn't have the radio on. It was quiet. Isaac's nervous system was shot. Mine was shot from just trying to keep up with him and maintain some kind of energy that whole day. And I was worn out. So we got in the car and it was quiet. And I wanted to be sure that I could hear Isaac. And I just was trying to pay really close attention and stay focused on what was needed. And as we made that left-hand turn, into the car comes the loudest sound of Phil Collins' song In the Air Tonight. And it was, I can feel it coming in the air, and it struck my body so hard. It was so loud in my head. Like when you go to a concert and you're there in the concert and there's the loud music, you get a little noise distortion, right? And your ears kind of you get ringing in your ears and that kind of static pressure from the loudness of the concert. There was none of that. It was absolutely crystal clear, and it was so loud. I slammed my hand onto the dashboard because I was trying to turn my radio off, and Isaac jumped out of his skin and he said, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that too?" And I heard it, and Isaac heard it, and we both heard it together. And then he was holding my hand and he was sweating, and we were almost in tears together. It was so scary. And we turned into the parking lot of the Mexican restaurant, and it started to hail. And you know what? It was hailing on the Mexican restaurant. I don't know how to explain this. I can't explain it, but the only thing that it was hailing a little in the street, and it was hailing in the parking lot. And we sat and Isaac ordered, and he was so cute. I know he didn't have anything to his name, and he insisted that it was that he was to buy the first round of tacos next time I could buy. So he bought the tacos. We were going to sit there and eat, but he was too scared and he was shaking so bad. We got back in the car, and then we went back home and ate our lunch. But I don't know how else to explain this. I don't know what else it could be. I've had all kinds of things told to me about where that noise could have come from. But even if something comes that loud into your car, through your speakers, there's distortion, and there was zero distortion. And it was in my bones, in my head, it was me, it was in my body. That's all I can explain, is that it was in my body, and it shook us both so bad. So I did get to experience that with Isaac. I know that it was real. I know that what he told me then about hearing the onslaught of voices and music and sound that he was. I know that the knot, after researching this later, I know that the knot on the back of his head was from banging his head, because it was in the perfect place where victims of this bang their head, because behind your ears, you have those little bones, right? That's where it's aimed. And then it bounces off the center of the back of your head and forward into your brain. They can give you visions. They can give you smells. They can entirely control. They can entirely control the experience that you're having in your brain. And he had this knot about this big on the back of his head, and there was a split in it, and it was bleeding from him banging it on the floor and on the door frame in his bedroom. And whoever was doing that to them is the most evil, wretched, cruel. I don't know. And that our government uses this on American citizens, that it uses it abroad, that it uses it on soldiers of other countries.
Venezuela.
In Venezuela. It happened in DC. It happens to targeted individuals. It's real. It's real, and it's terrifying, and you are absolutely certain of what is happening in you, and it's coming, and there's no sound from the outside of you. So then you look, you look like a crazy person to someone looking at you, and they can beam you alone in a crowd. It is a thing. There's all kinds of declassified information about it. If you don't know about it, or haven't heard about it, or aren't sure if it's real or not, it's all declassified. You can go ahead and read about it. It's real. And yeah, that was the Phil Collins experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get an expert on voice to skull technology to come on and expand on that. It does sound absolutely terrifying. So we've got about 15 minutes left for final questions, viewers. And I know, Corey, you wanted to touch on Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. Didn't you?
I lined up. I got 4 hours worth of information here. If you want another show, we can do a whole nother show on it. I mean, I can just touch on some small stuff here. Do you allow screen sharing?
Yes. We can't. Do you know about not showing certain things on YouTube? We can't show injuries and things like that.
Yes, sir. It'll just be my website. It'll be just no bad words. No, it's all. I won't say it's workplace appropriate, but it's definitely not non-YouTube appropriate. So we're okay.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Okay.
Can you got to click on the present at the bottom?
Is that the box with the plus in it?
Yeah.
Okay. Share screen. Window. 1 second.
And viewers, don't forget, you can follow Phoenix Enigma on X and go to the website and look at the mind map links. I've just put them in the live chat again now. If you missed our part 1 that we did, then you can watch that. The link is down there as well. All right, so I'm going to put this on the screen for you.
There you
go. Oops. Hold on 1 second. There we go.
All right. So as most of my own listeners know, and those who have known me from your last show, I am an occultist. I study the occult, and I study the occult as to where it joins in with politics, parapolitics, global politics, and I de-occult things. Before any of the Christians out there go on and say I'm a Satanist, I study occultism the way a criminologist studies crime. The criminologist isn't robbing banks. He studies crime. I study the occult. Okay. That being said, Isaac Kappy, when I put this together, Isaac Kappy outed Seth Green and others on July 22nd or 7/22. Okay. At 1:33 in the afternoon. That's a fact. Isaac Kappy died on May 13th or the 133rd day of the year at 7:22 in the morning. Isaac Kappy's time and date of his death is the exact reversal of the time and date he came out at the Comic-Con event and made those accusations against Tom Hanks, Steven Spielberg, and Seth Green.
That's crazy.
Charlie Kirk first outed Netanyahu in Israel on October 12th, 2023 on the Patrick Bet-David show, Valuetainment, at the 2-minute and 53-second mark of the interview and at the 28-minute mark of the interview, or at 9:28 in the morning, because that's when it came on, because it came on at 9 a.m. Okay. Charlie died at 12:23 p.m. Keep in mind, right here, he did the interview on 12:23. Charlie died at 12:23 on 9/10.
Wow.
9/10 is also the 253rd day of the year. So the 2 times Charlie talked about Israel in that event at 2:53 and the 28-minute mark, or the 9-hour and 20-minute mark of the day, both line up with the date, September 10th being the 253rd day of the year at 12:23. Charlie Kirk's death is the identical reversal of the time and date that he came out and spoke against Israel. Isaac Kappy's death is the exact time and date reversal of the time he came out and spoke against Hollywood. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence, Shaun. And there's so much more. On my website, this article here is called De-Occulting the Charlie Kirk Assassination. And you can go, I go through similitudes. I go through any number of things on here. Ties in with Nero. Here, this is a good one. I mean, people don't know this right here, but if you take September 10th, the day of Charlie Kirk's unaliving, and translate it to the Hebrew calendar, or Elul 17, you'll find that Elul 17 is the beginning of the outbreak of World War II and the Holocaust. It's also factors into the Great Flood. Elul 17 marks the 301st day of the flood. There are markers all the way down from the time and date of this ritualistic unaliving of Charlie Kirk. And I see so much parallel. I'll tell you another one real quick here, right? We all know Snake Eyes, right? You've heard the Snake Eyes thing with Charlie Kirk?
Yeah. Please expand.
So, the victim's name, right? Charlie Kirkland in the movie. I don't want to bore your audience here. Most everyone should know this by now. This is all over the world. There are too many coincidences between the movie Snake Eyes and the events surrounding the unaliving of Charlie Kirk. The suspect, the fall guy's name, Lincoln Tyler, the boxer, Tyler the Destroyer. He was the assassin. He took the fall guy narrative. A guy named Don owns the casino boxing ring, right? We got Donald Trump. It just goes on and on and on and on. Okay. Not many people know this. There was a movie or a TV show called Night Shift, the second to last thing that Isaac did here. And it's about that was Isaac's second to last performance, where he pretends to have fallen off of a roof that, quote unquote, had no railing.
Wow.
And he gets up and walks away because it was being faked.
Good grief.
Then you got the whole Snake Eyes things as well. This is in the mind map as well, man. It just goes, Shaun, it goes on and on and on. I did an article, and I don't know why I didn't have more people into this, but the deocculting of Isaac Kappy's Hollywood character role connections. This is beyond anything you've ever seen with the numerology involved with. He was in Breaking Bad, right? Everyone knows he was this was his stint in Breaking Bad here. This is it. That's it. That's his whole scene, right? Now, but here's the deal, man. When you get in that
ties back to the handkerchief.
Oh God, it ties back to everything.
We didn't talk about that.
The very next scene after you see Isaac Kappy is the one where the red truck gets run over. Isaac was run over by a red truck, right? In Breaking Bad. There's the truck that ran him over. This is the next scene after you see Isaac Kappy. We go through the address of Frank's place, Hank's place there. You got Hank, one of the main characters in Breaking Bad. You got Tom Hanks, right? You got the address 4904 comes out to 17. We know what that means. Then you got the Better Call Saul stuff. This, Shaun, we might need 2 hours. I'll give you a taste of it here, but if you want to back for 2 hours, okay. There's a scene in there where Saul sits down, gets locked in. Have you seen this series?
I've watched the first season, I think.
Okay. This is first season series 2. Right here, Saul is sitting on a milk crate, and behind him is this graffiti with Moriah written across it, okay? And here's this picture. Let me see if I can find it right here. Moriah. That is what's right behind Saul. In this picture, so in Better Call Saul, the beginning of every single thing is a black and white, which is showing the future, right? Where Saul is at into the future. That's what these little pieces are. He is sitting right in front of this graffiti here, and the graffiti is this. It's like 3 peaks, a railroad tie, and Moriah. This is where Isaac died. Here are the 3 peaks of the mountain. It's an exploded volcano with 3 peaks on it. It's called the San Francisco Peaks. There's 3 of them. Here is the railroad tracks right in front of the military base, and here's where Isaac died. What happened at Moriah? Here, who knows their Bible? And he said, "Take now my son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for the burnt offering upon the mountains which I tell thee of." And at the last minute, God provides the ram as the sacrifice, and Isaac is untied and let go, but he's getting ready to kill his son Isaac in Moriah. Here is Saul hiding out in witness protection in a basement in front of a thing that looks the exact place where Isaac died, named Moriah.
That's crazy.
No, it gets crazier. I could go on for an hour on this, man. It just goes on and on and on. Other graffiti, but when you get into the time, I'm going to scroll down here. Some of this is like reaching, I'm going to admit, but quite a bit of it is not. You get here to the Reaper panel, and on the Reaper panel here, you have, and there's some blowups in there. There's the Reaper. It says Prime, and it says IK 17. Isaac Kappy was born on February 17th. It's right there. It's right there. The Reaper coming after him in that room. Here it is, right here. Isaac's birthday, 2/17. It says IK above it.
Wow.
The unfinished note. There's a hangman thing there. They got the clocks. When Saul walks in there, here's the clock. Is it 9:19 and 6 seconds? Those are the numbers that correspond to CIA on a gematria chart. When Saul walks out from there, it's at 1146, which is I and K. Those are Isaac Kappy's initials, 9/11. And also the Breaking Bad, the writers of Better Call Saul, and the episode titles season 2, episode 1, in which Isaac appeared, and the corresponding Better Call Saul season 2, episode 1. So Isaac appeared in Breaking Bad season 2, episode 1, and Better Call Saul 2 season, episode 1, if you consider this panel's, foreshadowing Isaac's death, in which he occulted graffiti appears. There's systematic similitude coding between those two unique shows and the season and episode correspondence of the things that trigger back to Isaac. And I'm not reaching. It's concrete, man.
Viewers, put a 1 in the chat if you want the Phoenix Enigma to come back and do 2 hours on the coding. And Alicia, is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion to the viewers?
All right.
I was reading through the comments and the messages, and it's nice in the audience for people to be aware and appreciative and respectful of things we can't say, and compassionate to how long this has gone on and continues in some ways to go on. And that is appreciated, because a lot of times we don't get that. And it's very, again, we're on your screen and we're sitting here together in person, and we're living it. And it's easy when you watch, when you watch your favorite YouTubers or whomever, to be on the air and see drama happening in their lives. It's really scary. You can close it, put it down, and go on and be in your day. But I appreciate that you guys are aware that this is real. And because a lot of times it just doesn't, it can feel like, what am I looking for, Corey? It can feel like we're
alone,
but it's make believe to the audience out there, when it's very real here. So, again, people ask, why do you revisit this and revisit this and revisit this? And as I'm sitting here going through my mind and listening to this again, because one person was brave enough to hashtag unseal Epstein, and he went for it, and he went for it, and he went for it. And you know what? And then I'll tell you a little quick thing here. His mom told me that he knew when he was 4 that he would do something special in this world. And if what he did was say that JE is the keystone to the whole effing matrix, well, then he did, and he kickstarted something that absolutely globally in this world needed to happen. And he did fulfill something he knew that he would do when he was a tiny boy. And so we tell the truth, and we tell it again, and we tell it again, and we tell it again, because it matters. Because every one of those victims matters, because every one of those children, women, young boys, every one of them matters. And that's what he was doing it for. He did it because he wanted a world that was safe for children, and those are his words.
Yeah.
Well said, Alicia. We've had a lot of the Epstein survivors on here, and since I last spoke to you guys, I've got a 2-year-old son, and it just makes it all the more important for me to expose these monsters and the things that they do to kids to make it a safer world for the kids. And Corey, do you have anything to say in conclusion?
Yeah, I'll make it succinct. I want to thank everyone in the audience for understanding what me and Alicia have been through, and for being part of the story. We're all in this together, guys. After what happened with the release of the files this year, Epstein, the Charlie Kirk unaliving, last year, all the shenanigans going, people understand we live in the Truman Show. It's no longer like this conspiracy theory. We are here. It's real. Nothing in America is what we thought it was, or the world for that matter. And the global elite are the predator elite. They're predators. And there's an awakening globally right now, and I can feel it. They're not accepting it anymore. And people I thought would never wake up, they're waking up. The world's had it. We need to carry this momentum forward. We need to clean up our own nations if we can, if it's not too late. It's not left versus right. It's us versus the predator elite. It's not left versus right. Get out of the left-right paradigm. If you're in that left-right paradigm, it's not what it's about. That is a trap. Get out of that. But we'll come back anytime you like, Shaun. There's so much more to cover on this. And I want to thank everyone for their support. If you want to follow us in the interim, we have a show over on Rumble. Find the Phoenix Enigma on Rumble. I got like 600 and 10. We got canceled, as you know, back in the day. We had 63,000 subs on YouTube, but we got canceled. If you go over to Rumble or on X, find the Phoenix Enigma, sub there, and you'll hear us talk a couple times a week about these issues as well as others. We couldn't get into today. I had some information about the missing Nancy Guthrie from an FBI contact here in Tucson. We didn't have time to get into that today, but we cover a lot of these topics where these government psyops intersect with the occult and occulted numerology and similitudes and the coding systems that they use, because it is all ritual. It's ritual.
Yeah, you might want to try getting back on YouTube, because they've let David Icke and a lot of other people back on. So it might be a good time to try and get back on. But okay. I'm going to close the show, guys, and let you go. And huge thank you for coming on. Just absolutely mind-blowing. And Alicia, get some rest. We appreciate you opening your heart and speaking out.
I always look so haggard after these conversations.
No, I'm more worried about you. I'm more worried about your soul. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaun.
Good night, Shaun. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye. Fantastic guests, folks. And please support the important work. Links are in the description box. I'll put the links in the live chat again, and we'll definitely get them back on at some point. Because it just sounds like there's so much more to discuss. And I love the meticulous research that we just heard. So it's late here. I'm going to have to go and help out with baby Ziggy. But before I go, let me tell you what we've got coming up tomorrow. We have got Kevin Annette at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I know a lot of you are following Kevin Annette. We've got Professor Hamamoto at 7 p.m. tomorrow on Epstein's Zorro Ranch Macabre Experiments. And then Andrew Lowney has messaged me in the emails. Let's have a look here. Sunday afternoon with Andrew Lowney talking about all the latest news with the former Prince Andrew. Will Fergie be indicted next? Mandelson, etc. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. Like I said, I'm going to go and take care of baby Ziggy now and do my duties.